All right, we're back on Between the Lines on Sports Radio 810. We're at Mules National Golf Club today in Warrensburg, Missouri, where you will find the University of Central Missouri, and the pride of this community is the Mules football team. They open the season a week from tomorrow night against Pittsburgh State right here at Walton Stadium in Warrensburg. And joining us now is the coach of the Mules, Jim Svoboda. He's got quite a good football program. They were in the playoffs last year after a 9-3 season. He's got a new quarterback this year, which is always a lot of fun, and they're going to open against Pittsburgh State. It's on in 8 days, Coach. How you doing?
It is on in 8 days, Kevin. We're hoping we're going to be ready. We'll need a few more practices, but I've liked what I've seen out of our guys. Great enthusiasm. We got a good leadership on the squad, and a lot of guys that have starting experience. And we've seen that sort of play itself out here really since spring ball last year. And we also have a number of guys that were hurt during the course of last season. We had an extraordinary amount of injuries last year, and some of those kids have healed up after surgery in their back. So it's it's been a good camp.
Well, you play in the best league in the country, which I think probably lends itself to needing more depth, and you can get injured. I mean, this is just a brutal schedule. You guys all play in this league. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, we got all the cupcakes first.
It's unbelievable.
All the playoff teams,
right?
And postseason teams.
How hard is the league?
It is hard. It's valuable. It's legitimately. I think it legitimately is the best conference. There, you'd get some argument out of the Gulf South and some other conferences. But top to bottom, week in and week out, I think you could make a good case. Plus, if you just look at the number of times Northwest Pitt have been in the championship game over the last 20 years, I think it's half of those years or maybe even more. I think that you got a pretty firm footing to make that claim. So, and then we have the really, at least based on last year's record, last 2 or 3 or 4 years' record, we by far play the toughest opening 5 games. So, eventually you got to play everybody in the league, obviously, and there's no weeks off, and but at the same time, momentum is a big thing in this sport. You only have 11 games, and that's what I was really proud about last year. Is our backs were to the wall. We were 3-2 after that. Same schedule, just reverse locations this year. And we basically had to win out to make the postseason, make the playoffs, and that's what the kids did. So, and it's kind of been that way, to be honest with you. I was talking to you earlier. Last year was the first year I've been Central. This is my 8th year, but in 7 years, last year was the first year I was 2-0 as a head coach. That's how tough our first opening schedule. So, in D2, if you lose one game, there's been cases where teams have lost, just one game and not made the playoffs, and so. It's just when that's your ambition and you got that tough schedule, that's you're playing under a lot of pressure right away.
I know what you would say and what you would tell your players is that preseason polls don't matter. What people think of you, you got to go re-earn it every single year. But you're coming off a 9-3 season. You're nationally ranked. You're picked 3rd in your league. You got a new quarterback. I mean, just the fact that you're nationally ranked and picked 3rd in your league says an awful lot about what everybody thinks of your program. That must at least be a reflection on you, your staff, and what you have built here.
Well, yeah, you feel good about that because I have a lot of respect for the coaches in our conference for sure. There's really quality coaches. I've coached at all levels of college football. I've coached major college and NAIA and everywhere in between, and so I can tell you firsthand that the quality of coaching and how the players play and the level of talent in this league is really second to none. So to be recognized, yeah, it means a lot. If you look at it, that's how the teams finished last year. That's typically how it is, until it's proven differently. So you get that part of it. I didn't even know what the polls were until I showed up for media day. We don't pay too much attention. We just know that we're not looking much past beyond Pitt State right now.
Jim Svoboda is with us, the coach here at Central Missouri. The Mules open a week from tomorrow night against Pittsburgh State at Walton Stadium. Tomorrow night they have a Meet the Mules event at 6:30. You can come out for about a half an hour and meet all the players. Great opportunity for the kids to come out. And then there's a practice that follows that everybody can stay and watch. And I don't think you have 64 different combinations of practice jerseys and practice uniforms. But I took the video tour on your website today of your facilities. It's phenomenal. I mean, your facilities are
We have
great.
nice stuff. And,
you really have nice stuff. And I would encourage anybody to go to the UCM Athletics website and take the football facilities tour and check this out. And as part of the tour, they show the uniforms. Hey, we're a Nike school, all this stuff. 64 different uniform combinations. Did you know that?
News to me.
Really? So who decides each week exactly what the combo would be?
Well, our leadership council has a lot to say about it. And, I guess when you throw in a couple different helmets and, different decals and, we have 3 different jerseys and 3 different pants. So I'm not a mathematician, but, it's nice to be able to provide those things for your athletes. Having a Nike contract for a Division II school is pretty cool. Not many schools can make that claim. And so, the fact is, everywhere you go in our league, people have pretty nice stuff. If you look around, there's indoor facilities, there's nice stadiums. That's a selling point. Not only the recruit's going to play in a nice place at home, on the road, most places are pretty nice too. But I would like to think that, without exaggeration, we're in probably easily the top 10, probably the top 5 in terms of overall facilities. And so, that credit is due to Jerry Hughes, our athletic director, and Dr. Ambrose, our president. They see the value in that, and just sends a message in the recruiting process that they value the student athletes, and we're going to give you nice stuff and give you a fair playing field.
With so many schools so close, how difficult or competitive is the recruiting in Kansas City and maybe even in the state of Missouri, even here right in your own backyard? There's so many schools so close. How competitive is it?
Oh, it's huge. A kid that's a good player, you can just plan on him being offered by 6 or 7, MIAA schools. And
within a couple hours drive of wherever he lives.
Yeah, exactly. So it works out good for those kids. It's always nice to be wanted. And Division II is different. A lot of people don't understand that we have the equivalent of 36, but we can give a kid whatever we want. So we could give him $100 or we could give him a full ride.
Right.
And anywhere in between. And so there's a lot of planning that goes into that, and you sort of have a tier. Obviously, you can't just give 36 full rides. Right. So, what does a good player get?
Right.
It's somewhat arbitrary, but at the same time, I think most of the schools in our conference kind of have they keep it in pretty good perspective. The thing you don't want to do is sort of get in a bidding war, and kind of think it sends the wrong message, to the kid. You make a good offer of what what a Division II offer would be, and be competitive, but you don't want to get too crazy, just because, again, the Division I, the FBS schools, they have the equivalent of 85. Mm-hmm. And so essentially you have about 80-some kids on scholarship. They're just not on full.
So you have about 80 players or a couple more
around
that get a piece of something.
Yes.
And does anybody get the full thing?
Do
they know amongst themselves if
don't,
they do?
Well,
at other schools, if 2 or 3 players had the full vote, would they know?
I would say that if a kid says he's getting 100% football money, that would be sort of rare. I mean, it happens. There are some kids that do that, and that's the other thing too, is you want to keep it kind of equitable. It's somewhat of a merit system. The kind of the cool thing about D2 is you can sort of bump a kid up, and so in D1. He's either on full ride or he's a walk-on. There's no partial scholarships in D1. So in D2, I can bring a kid on, on $1,000, and then, if he makes the bus, then I can give him, a half or whatever. And so it's kind of cool to be able to do that. But it's a lot to keep up with, and it's a lot to sort of, be fair within your own team, be competitive in the recruiting process. All those kinds of things got to be taken into consideration. So. I'd like it if we had 72 halves. It'd be a lot easier. But at the same time, like I said, it's kind of fun to reward a kid that's worked his way up the ladder too.
They get some good reactions when you do that.
Oh yeah. You'd be surprised. And
do it in front of the team? Is it always private with you and him, or how do you do it?
I meet with every kid at the end of every school year, and we talk about a variety of things and. How their experience is at Central and how they feel about the team, how they feel like their place is on the team, and how they're doing all that stuff. But one of them is money. And so, you get some it warms your heart. Kids worked hard and get some reward. But at the same time, we don't want to say that, the whole thing is money.
Right.
We want it to be, what are you getting for your experience? And 20 years from now, if you had to pay a few more bucks or you got a few more bucks, it's not going to make a hill of beans difference compared on what you experienced during your 5 years.
Jim Svoboda is with us. He's the head football coach at the University of Central Missouri. The Mules open a week from tomorrow night against Pittsburgh State here at Walton Stadium in Warrensburg. You got a tremendous wide receiver returning in Jalen Zachary, new quarterback. I know you just like to go up and down the field, Coach, and rack up the yards and play as fast as you can. What's the transition like for you when you go to a new quarterback?
Well, you don't really know for sure. You can garner a lot of information, obviously, through practice and scrimmages, and you'd be as objective as you can. But when the bullets are live and it's real, you don't know quite what to expect. But I think with Brooke Bowles is our starter right now. He got in some games last year, so he's not completely green. And then he's just kind of one of those guys where that's really where he shines. I think that when the lights are the brightest, I think that he just kind of brings the best out in him. At least that's what I've seen so far. So, but it's still, if you look at any level of from professional all the way to high school, it's a very difficult position to evaluate. There's so much more that goes on between the ears, and a kid playing within his own ability is part of it. I think for the really good ones, time sort of slows down. It's hard to measure, in the recruiting process. Mechanics are still important. Kids got a quick release is huge, at least for what we look for, and we're looking for an overall good athlete. You want them to be a good student. It's a total package at that position.
How important is your football team, and maybe what impact do you think your football team has in this community?
Well, it's hard to say. We talk about it a lot. You don't want to overblow it. I think that, college football has an insane level of attention right now.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's crazy. Think about it. I mean, you can watch 15 when we were young. Well, I'm a lot older than you, but even you remember when there was 5. We were really excited during the bowl season, right?
Yeah,
because
right.
There was
sure.
a bunch of games.
Yeah.
And now you can watch 15 or 20 or record a whole bunch of them, which I do. So it's wildly popular. So that's kind of cool, and we want our kids to understand that it's a platform, that because of that, there's good and bad that comes with that. You can use it for good. Like we're going to, tomorrow night we're going to, hopefully meet some young kids and hang out with them and be good role models for them. But at the same time, in some ways, you got a target on your back, and you got to really watch what you do and be aware that you're representing the school and the community 24/7. That just goes with the deal. So it's you're not changing the world, but there's an opportunity there for sure.
Well, there's so many endearing qualities about Division II football. It's in my opinion, all the things that I fell in love with about college athletics. Okay, there's not people running around screaming, "We got to pay them. The kids are getting ripped off. We got to do this. We got to give them more. We got to give them this and that and the whole." So there's not that. I like that part of this. But for the coaches, while you may, if you have a couple clunker seasons, you're not going to be on ESPN. They're not going to be all calling for your head. But locally, it's the same pressure, isn't it? I mean, if you're not performing, if you're not winning, you're hearing about it right here, just like any coach would anywhere, aren't you?
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, and you just have to live with that. I mean, you don't want a crummy program. You don't want, you're not going to get people to come and play for you in a crummy program. So, in the end, it's you got to win some games, but at the same time, it's a college education. I love the platform of college football. I'm not sure that young men get anything quite like it now. Maybe if they join the military, where it's it's really physical, it's really demanding. You have to be a tough individual to play it. You have to pick yourself back up. You have to decide how you're going to respond to things, the ebbs and the flows and all that. So I'm probably more invigorated as a coach than I've ever been because of that. So I think if you do things the right way, you're going to win your share of games. I mean, that's still why you keep score, right? And if you watched one of our practices, you'd think you were at a game, because we keep score a lot with the different phases of the things that we do. We want it to be competitive, and we want them to kind of feel that. So we're going to do everything we can within the rules to produce a winner, to win the game, but that's only part of it for us. I mean, we have a mission statement that we want to build champions, we want to produce graduates, and we want to form leaders. And as coaches, we try to adhere to those three things with everything we do. Our team has core values that we try to adhere to. For us, it's family, accountability, toughness, and execution. And so if you're not contributing to one of those areas, then you probably have no business being on the team. And so what that does is gives us solid footing. We don't get out of our square too much, getting too obsessed with, maybe getting this kid or that kid. We want solid people in the program. We want to give them opportunities to grow. We want to it's really all about development.
Well, no matter where I go, my job is the same, so I will go ahead and ask you as a final question. I've got a Mules National Golf Club pencil right here that I got in the pro shop, and I have my fine Uniball pen that I like to take out on every show. I'm going to write you down for 9 wins. Which should I use?
The pen, of course.
The pen, write down 9. There it is. Okay, 9 for the Central Missouri Mules. Coach, great to see you again, man. Good luck. Have a great time tomorrow night with the Meet the Mules event. And next Thursday night against Pittsburgh State. Go get it.
It's on.
Okay, thank you. There's Jim Svoboda, the head coach of the Central Missouri Mules here at Mules National Golf Club in Warrensburg on Sports Radio 810.